Schools can be scary places. Kids have it right. I work as an IT technician at a school. Despite what most people think, I still have to work during the summer vacation. There was one day that I don't think I will be able to forget easily. I woke up to the loud clap of thunder as lightning forked from the sky and lit up the room. Another stormy day, I thought. I made my breakfast and got ready for work. I always hated working on days like this. Not only does the storm make it much darker outside, the lightning tends to make the lights and power flick on and off. When I got to work, the parking lot was empty, typical for a day in the summer. Looking around the empty parking lot, it felt like something was watching me, but I figured it was just the storm. I grabbed my stuff and made my way into the building. Turning off the alarm, I made sure the door was locked. The school was closed. I had to make sure no one wanders in. I got into my office and looked at my tickets for the day. Not too many, which was nice. I could still hear the storm outside, but at least it wasn't as loud. After taking care of a few easy ones, I needed to get into a few classrooms to get the computers ready for the new school year. I started on one side of the school and decided to make my way back to my office. The east wing of the school was the lower grades. Each room had about 5 computers, and I had about 10 rooms on this wing. I picked a room and started. The room has one wall full of windows, which gave me a nice view of the yard. During the storm, the view isn't as nice, mostly just rain and dark clouds. But this time there was something more. Standing in the middle of the playground was a man in a yellow raincoat. He stood out pretty well against the dark shadows from the clouds. I watched him for a minute, then figured he must just be out walking his dog or something. The school is public land after all. I went about my work in the room, and on my way out I took another look out at the playground. The man was gone. I went into the few rooms and finished up work in there. In this wing, I could hear the storm much louder than in my office. When I got into the 4th room, there was a loud crack of thunder and a bright flash of light. Then it went dark. The power went out. Great, I thought. There was another flash of lightning, and this time, something caught my eye. The room had a few windows, with a view of the yard as well. I noticed the man in the yellow coat looking in the room I first went into. He had his hands cupped over the window and was peeking into the dark room. I took out my phone and started making my way back to my office to check on the battery backups. When I got into my office, I heard a knocking. It sounded like it was coming from the front door. Being curious, I went to the door and looked out the window. There he was, the man in the yellow raincoat. "I'm sorry, but the school is closed," I said.
"I just need to use the phone. It won't be long. Please?"
he replied. Since the school was closed, I wasn't going to let anyone in, even more so when I was the only one in the building. "Sorry, the rules are very clear on this. I can't let anyone in," I told him.
"Well then, I guess I'll just have to find my own way,"
he said with a smile. Then he turned and left. I wasn't okay with his response. I checked the security system to make sure that all of the doors and windows were closed. Everything looked okay. I went back into my office, and then I heard what sounded like a window breaking. I grabbed my cell phone and started looking around. I eventually made my way into the first room where I saw the man, the one he was looking into. The room was colder as soon as I walked in, and I could see the broken window. I took out my cell phone and started to dial 911. That's when something hit me. I couldn't tell what it was at first, but the force made me drop my cell phone. Then the man in the yellow raincoat stepped out from behind the door and shoved me forward while stomping on my phone. I was panicking now. How could this happen? What can I do? All of those thoughts raced through my mind. I made my way to my feet and moved to the other side of the room. I used a few of the desks and made sure they were between me and him. The room was cold, and the rain was starting to get in the room. The lights in the room were still off, so I wasn't able to get a good view of the man.
"You should have let me in,"
he said. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a kitchen knife.
"Now I'm going to take your life for your mistake,"
he said. I wasn't able to run out of the door because he was standing in front of it, but the window seemed like an option. It was jagged, so I knew I would get cut, but it was better than dying. I made a dash for the window and I was just about to dive out of it. Then something else appeared in the window. It was a second man in a yellow raincoat. He started to make his way into the room as well. At this point, I thought it was all over. They had me cornered, so I figured I would try to talk my way out. "Why are you doing this?" I asked.
You're the IT guy here, right? My son failed a grade because of you. Your equipment failed and he lost his report,"
he said. "What? Are you serious?" I said. I remember the incident. The student did lose his work, but it had nothing to do with us. He saved it all on a flash drive and it became corrupted. The student never made a backup, and this was his third extension on the report. I couldn't believe I was going to get killed over something like this.
"Enough stalling,"
the second man said.
"Get it over with. We need to get out of here."
The first man moved towards me with the knife raised. With another flash of light, he swung. The knife hit me right in the shoulder. It felt like nothing I had ever felt before. The pain was massive. My legs felt weak, and I fell to my knees. I moved my hand to take the knife out, but he stopped me and took it out. Then I heard a voice. "Put the knife down." The man turned around, and a cop was there with his weapon drawn. By this point, I had lost a fair amount of blood and started to get dizzy. I planned to rest my eyes, but I must have blacked out. The last thing I remember hearing was a gunshot. I woke up in the hospital later that day. The police told me that I was really lucky and that my 911 call did make it through. Since they were unable to call me back, they ended up tracking my location and sent the police. The cops saw the man at the window and assumed it was a break-in. I was so relieved to know that it was all over. Both men were arrested and charged. After that day, the school decided to give me some extra vacation time for my suffering. I'm currently 15 years old, and this has to be one of the creepiest encounters I can remember. I'm guessing I was around 10 or 11 when this happened, but my memory is kind of foggy, and I'm having trouble remembering every single detail. It was a snowy night in Wisconsin when this event took place, probably around 9 or 10 at night. The day before at school, I decided that it would be fun to have a contest about who could make their own Minecraft shirt. So my idea was to draw a creeper face on a plain white tee, and then wear it to school. Now that I think about it, it was a really dumb idea. I'm sitting at home when I remember all about the contest, then all of a sudden I get really excited for tomorrow. Then I remembered I still didn't make my shirt, and started looking around for a white tee that I could draw on. I found one fairly quickly, and got to work, coloring the whole shirt green and adding the creeper face in after. After I finished everything, I realized I drew the whole thing backwards. Come on, how am I ever going to win the contest wearing a backwards shirt? I was really triggered at this, so I started looking for another white shirt. I asked my mom, and she said she left one at my grandma's, which was right down the street. She didn't really trust the idea of a 10-year-old walking around at night, but for some reason she let me go and get it. Once I started walking, I immediately felt that feeling that something was wrong and that I was being watched. But whenever I looked around, there wasn't anybody in sight. This feeling stuck with me until I got to my grandma's, and I took one last glance before I walked in the door. The only thing I did see, which wasn't really out of the ordinary, was a man in his late 50s riding his bike. I didn't give it any thought and just walked in, got the shirt and left. On the way back, I got the exact same feeling as before, but this time it hit me harder, so I started jogging. To get to my house, I always cut through a parking lot, and then I was basically home. As I was jogging, though, the older guy on the bike passed me. That's when I knew I was being followed, because the last time I saw him, he was heading in the opposite direction of me. Even creepier, he was staring at me while he passed. At this point, I was right in front of my house, and the old guy crossed the street and got off his bike and looked at me. "Hey, my bike's got a flat tire. Will you help me take it to my house right down the street?" I knew that it wasn't right, so I replied with, "No, sorry, but I literally live right here, so I can ask my parents to help you." Right after I brought up my parents, he said, "Never mind, I'm good," and got right back on his bike and sped away. I sprinted into my house and locked the door, realizing what almost happened. How the hell could he have ridden away on his bike that fast if his tire was popped? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. If you would like a chance to have your story featured in an upcoming video, make sure you email it to urmaker6260@gmail.com. And if you would like early access to my videos, along with other perks, make sure you go check out my Patreon page. It's an awesome way for you guys to help support the channel, as well as get some cool perks. So this video is a little different. I chose some stories that were submitted, but I wasn't quite sure how people would react to them. So in the story with the IT guy, honestly to me that one kind of reads like a horror story. So much so that I'm actually not even really sure if that's true. I included it because it's a viewer submission and I figured I'd let you guys go ahead and be the judge. The thing for me that stuck out personally was the fact that the IT guy knew the student's work history with his homework. You would think normally they wouldn't know that, but I really don't know. Some things are true that don't appear to be. That's why I figured I'd leave it up to you, but also give my opinion, because I used to do that back in the day, but then I stopped. The other story with the popped bike tire, I left that one in because I think it's a nice one for the kids that listen to my channel, to always be wary of strangers. The thing I found a little odd in that one is that he was out riding his bike in the snow. Not too many people would be doing that at 9 or 10 at night in Wisconsin. Extremely cold. And if they are, you might want to pay attention to them. That's a little bit of a red flag. Now that's not to say neither of these are true. That's just up to you guys to decide. I feel like a dick if I tell someone their story is not true where it very well could be and I just don't understand all the aspects of the situations. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed this video. And for those of you that missed my thoughts on stories, I hope you enjoyed this little extra that I threw in. I'll catch you guys in the next video. And I'm actually not going to end this one with my normal quote. We're going to end it with, thanks for watching. Bye.